Raptors fans are very excited after drafting Christian Koloko with the 33rd overall pick, but there's one aspect about that pick that people are not noticing. So in today's video, we're going to reveal exactly what that is and why it's so important to the franchise going forward. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Hour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I bring you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. So if you want to keep up with all of those videos all throughout the offseason, especially covering the latest draft picks, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are on a road to 10,000 subscribers, and you can help us get there. And if you find yourself enjoying this video along the way, be sure to drop a like. We want to hit 250 likes on today's video. But let's get into our content for today. What you're not noticing about the Raptors drafting Christian Koloko. It's only been a few days since the Raptors made that selection at 33rd overall, and based on what I've seen across social media, news outlets in general, Raptors fans are very excited about this pick here. Maybe American media, just NBA media in general. I would say, like, what I've seen, some people aren't that big of a fan of it. They had Christian Koloko going lower than 33rd overall. Some people are a big fan of it. They had Christian Koloko going earlier than that. And for myself, I would say if I were to have made a mock going into the draft, I probably would have had Koloko like very late 20s or early 30s. So I think the range that they got him in was very good. And one person who might disagree with me, however, is Bobby Webster. Bobby Webster, right after the draft, said that on their board, they had Christian Koloko going at around 20 to 25. So if the Raptors were in that range, they may have even selected Koloko much higher up in the draft. So they must have been very, very happy to see Koloko fall to 33rd overall, and the decision to take him must have been quite easy for them based on their valuation of the player. I mean, how could you blame him in this scenario? Christian Koloko is a 7'1", 7-foot center with a 7'5" wingspan. In fact, it's over 7'5", showing tons of athleticism, showing a very good interior game on offense and defensively. You know, really showing the potential like he can be the defensive anchor for a team at some point over the course of his career. I've said before the draft, before the Raptors even drafted him, that this could be the best defensive player in the draft, and you might be able to get him in the second round. Now, we've done so many breakdowns on Koloko and the pick and, you know, what the player can do that we don't really need to discuss a ton of it. If you want to go check it out, a couple of videos ago, I talked about Koloko and what he would bring to the team. But now we need to discuss an aspect that we really aren't realizing here. And you may have picked up on it as I was talking about Bobby Webster. Bobby Webster saying that he would have taken Koloko between 20 to 25. Well, how about the Raptors, who had potentially that 21st overall pick in the draft that they ended up trading away in order to acquire Thaddeus Young at the deadline? Because now that we know who the Raptors took with that pick, we have a much better understanding of the valuation that we got for Goran Dragic, and you can even trace this back to Kyle Lowry, who, of course, last offseason, around this time of year, we traded Kyle Lowry in a sign-and trade to acquire Precious Achiuwa and Goran Dragic. Now, I don't think any Raptors fan is doubting how good of a trade that was to get Precious Achiuwa in a sign-and trade, but we had to eat that Goran Dragic contract, and we had to trade it away and lose a first-round pick in the process. We lost a first-round pick by giving it to the Spurs. In exchange, we got that 33rd overall pick via the Detroit Pistons, and we also got Thaddeus Young. So the way we can assess this trade goes to, first of all, Thaddeus Young. How the season ended, how Thaddeus Young played near the end of the season, and especially in the playoffs. I would say overall, I came around in that trade. When it first happened, I was very upset about the trade. Like, I was pretty upset about the trade. I remember I was on vacation in Italy when I was first reacting to this trade. I was doing videos in Italy for this one, and I just simply wasn't happy. And after watching Thaddeus Young for the first couple of weeks playing for the Raptors, I was even more unhappy. Thad had a really tough time getting adjusted to playing in Toronto, and granted, with the way the Toronto Raptors play, the way their offense and defense operates, I can fully understand why somebody would have an adjustment period. But once he got adjusted, he was a very important player near the end of the season, and I think he was pivotal in winning 2 playoff games. You know, ultimately, Thaddeus Young didn't necessarily increase our playoff ceiling. Like, we still lost in the first round. I think we would have lost in the first round had we not made that trade. So how much was it worth it, really, to lose that first round picks? And now we are really seeing it. I do admit that you're much more likely to get a good player at around 21 in the draft than you are at 33. Like much, much higher. Like an example I go to a lot. I know there's just one example, but the wins above replacement for a player, like it just significantly decreases as you go from 1 all the way down to 60. It's just a continuous trend. You're going to get a better player. You're much more likely to get a better player up higher in the draft, no matter what position. Any pick higher, you're more likely to get a better player. And for the Raptors, who do such a good job of scouting, like, that would have reigned true at around 21 overall. But now Bobby Webster is saying that if Christian Koloko was available in that range, they may have still taken him there, but they got him at 33 overall. So with that in mind, I want to reassess the trade. Now, I've come around in the trade since my first reaction, where I was very upset. When the Raptors were eliminated from the playoffs, I said, you know what? Based on what I saw from Thaddeus Young, we might still get a good player in the draft. I'm coming around off the trade. I think it was a decent trade for the Raptors. Maybe we overpaid a little bit, but you know what? That was a fine trade that I can absolutely live with. Masai Ujiri, who has never lost a trade for the Toronto Raptors. That's not hyperbolic. Look at every single trade Masai Ujiri has ever made for the Raptors. He has not lost a single trade, and that somehow includes a sign-and trade as well. So great track record for Masai Ujiri. And after the Raptors were eliminated from the playoffs, I was saying again, I'm coming around in the trade. We have to see who we get in the draft. Now that we have seen that, and we've seen that the Raptors got somebody at 33 who they would have considered at near 21. I don't necessarily think they would have had him at 21, but they would have strongly considered him at 21. The trade is starting to look even better than it did. Even though I already came around to it, the trade is really starting to look even better. Now, I can fully understand if there's people watching this who still aren't that big of a fan of the trade. We're still looking at that like we overpaid. We gave away that first round picks, especially for a team like the Raptors who are trying to ascend to a contender level. They're so pivotal for this team, especially a team like the Raptors who does not typically attract or does not ever attract high quality free agents. We only build through trades. We only build through the draft. The draft is very, very important for the way Masai Ujiri, the rest of the Raptors front office operates. So giving that away seemed like a little bit too much. But now that we have the player, I am very happy with Christian Koloko in this position at 33rd overall. This was a great selection by the Raptors. And, obviously a few years down the line, we're really going to see the impact that this trade had. But essentially what has happened with Masai Ujiri here is that he's taken Kyle Lowry, who wanted to leave in free agency anyway. He took a player that was going to leave the Raptors for absolutely nothing. He turned that into Precious Achiuwa, at least half a season of Thaddeus Young playing good basketball, possibly even more, and Christian Koloko. Like, to get that sort of return, if you really trace it down, is absolutely remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable for the Raptors to have achieved that. What a trade that was. I wouldn't say what a trade for the Goran Dragic one to the Spurs, but nonetheless, that still is looking pretty good at this point, you would have to say. Now, Christian Koloko, the more he develops over the next few years, the more we can say this was a good trade. If he doesn't develop, then maybe we'll say, okay, maybe that wasn't that great of a trade. Time will tell, but at this point, I think it's very difficult to argue that this wasn't a fine trade for the Raptors to make. I'm not saying necessarily they won the trade, they fleeced the Spurs. Overall, I think the Spurs got a very good deal out of that one, but I am really coming around in this trade. I'm really thinking that this was a great move by the Raptors, a great move by Masai Ujiri here. Thaddeus Young was important for the team near the end of the season. Do we win 48 games without the presence of Thaddeus Young on the team? I'm not so sure. I mean, granted, we also still didn't win in the playoffs, and that's where it really matters, but this team got a lot better. And I think that Thaddeus Young contributed to that. And I think that this team getting better in the future is going to have a correlation with Christian Koloko being on this team. I really like this player. I liked him pre-draft. I like him post-draft. I believe that there is a lot that the Raptors can do to harness this player, harness the just raw athletic potential of a 7-foot big with a 7'5" wingspan, already showing some great skills from a basketball standpoint, already showing a ton of excellent skills from a defensive standpoint. This was a great pick by the Raptors, and it's all because of the trade that was made originally. The Raptors, again, would have considered him in the 20s, and they got him in the second round. That is an absolute win, and now we're really starting to notice why that trade was made at the trade deadline. So what do you make of this story unfolding? Is this something that you were already aware of, or are you enlightened to the fact that, hey, maybe that trade wasn't so bad at the trade deadline? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me from today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like on the video. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. When you drop a like, it lets YouTube know that there's other people like you on the platform who might want to see this video, and therefore it's recommended to more people. Takes you a second to drop a like, but it does help me out a ton. And make sure, if you're new to the channel, you subscribe and help us on the road to 10,000 subscribers. I have a lot of great draft content still on the way and excellent content all throughout the offseason, especially as we hit the free agency period. Excellent, this amazing support on the channel over the last few days, and I'm very grateful and pleased to tell you guys that we just hit 2 million total views on the platform. What an incredible milestone to hit 2 million total views, and soon we're going to be celebrating 10,000 subscribers on the channel. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Like, I work hard to produce all this content for you guys, but achievements like this and a community like this makes it so rewarding, and I have you guys to thank so much profusely for all of that. We'll see you again next time for another video.